Hey guys, I'm gonna make a video reacting to Emma Watson. I've done a little bit of time typing Emma Watson and I don't see Fine. I see Sete. I'm gonna react to her and see what is most obvious. What jumps out at me?
And so everyone's like, this is a bad idea. The moment you self-publish, you're just locking the doors and no one is going to take you seriously. And I thought that that's fine because no one is taking me seriously anyway.
So I wanted to start with a crazy statistic that I read, which was a study that was done in 2015, which said that 6.7% of Americans have only read one poem in the last year. And it just kind of occurred to me that someone reading one of your poems on Instagram could mark the advent of their first interaction with a poem, which is kind of amazing and incredible. So congratulations on everything that you've done, and you are just about to embark on this huge American tour. And how does that feel?
It feels amazing, and I'm really grateful, and I feel really blessed. I think it's like always it's difficult to answer that question because for me and my life, poetry's always just been such a consistent part of it.
Yeah.
And so now everybody's like, oh my God, poetry is like everywhere. It's this crazy thing. And I haven't been able to really see that shift because it's always been around me. But I think it's so important. And I think it's important because poetry allows you to process emotion and allows you to express it. And it's crazy that such a low percentage of people actually use it as a tool to heal and as a tool to share. And so I think it's great that we're in a time now where so many more people are reading and using it.
Yeah. Oh, I completely agree. That was really how I felt reading your book, that it was just incredibly healing. And also, I loved it as a shorthand for ideas that I found really difficult to express myself. I could refer someone to this poem. I could just send them a screenshot of something, and I felt so lucky to have that as a tool in my arsenal that I could kind of draw on and be like, this is what it feels like, here. So that's incredible. You're giving people more words, more language. It's incredible.
Thank you.
You're a poet in, the day and age of, you post something on your Instagram account and you get instant feedback. So most writers will put a book out into the world and maybe they'll read a review or maybe they'll meet someone that's read their work that has an opinion, but you have to come face to face with people's responses and feelings to your work on a daily basis in drones. And I'm curious, does that affect your writing? Does that affect?
Yeah, it does two things. The feedback's always reassuring in that, oh, there's people here that want to read this, I'll keep writing it. But I'm also very self-aware of the fact that I don't want what other people think to change how I write and what I write about. And I remember very early on, this was probably, Milk and Honey was first self-published at the end of 2014, and when it came out, all of my friends were like, okay, so we were like taking a look at your Instagram and we realized that the poems about love and heartbreak get the most amount of love. And your other pieces about like sexual abuse and all that, okay, maybe you want to like chill on those because there's not that much interaction. And I remember for a month, I was like, you're right. I should be doing everything that I can to get this book into as many hands as possible. But it didn't feel right. And what I felt was this magic. There was some sort of magic going away, and I realized it was because writing for me, and I explain it as like a romantic relationship with like a partner, it's it is a romantic relationship. It's like this spiritual connection that I have, and it's when I feel closest to myself. And you wouldn't let a third party enter your romantic relationship, and their opinions shouldn't affect how you feel about the person that you love. So why would I let hundreds and thousands of people and their opinions affect how I write and what I write about? And so I'm very aware of really letting that feedback change. So I'm very like, okay, I don't read reviews, and I hardly read comments. And that's usually how I do it. I think it's about honesty and just sharing that.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's such a good analogy. And I mean, yeah, I relate. I think the discipline, the self-discipline it takes to not allow a third-party opinion into your psyche and your creative space is key. It's hard when it's about you. It must be really hard.
It's so personal.
It's so personal.
Everybody around me is like, it's okay, like, you know, this person isn't criticizing you, they're just criticizing the work. And I'm like, but the poetry is literally me.
Yeah.
Like, how is it not about me? You know,
Yeah.
this is poems about my life, poems about my experiences and the people that I love. So it's very difficult. And even though I am so self-aware and I do try to, like, you know, not let it affect me, I'm sure that at a level it has affected, you know, the way that I write.
Yeah.
And that has, for sure, some part of it has gone into like how I've written the second book.
Yeah. Well, that's what's so beautiful, and one of the other things I wanted to talk to you about was how incredibly there's a lack of self-consciousness there that's so beautiful. There's like such an innocence and like a purity to the way that you did that. And how old were you when you posted the now really famous picture of you with menstrual blood on a sheet?
I think I was 22 or 23.
So that's amazing to me, because I remember, I mean, I had more confidence at that age, but
me too.
I wonder, it was so fearless, it was so brave. And
I had no idea what, I agree with you. I was so much more confident and so much more raw, and I just didn't care about anyone and anything. And I was like, I'm gonna do what I want, how I wanna do it. And it was a good thing, but it allowed me to get into some trouble with that photograph. And, you know, I was very naive about the internet because I'd written about periods before. There's a poem about them in Milk and Honey. And so I thought that this photograph wouldn't be a big deal. It was a part of a school project, and, you know, the class loved it and it was going well. And so I thought, it's fine. Like, my readers know that this is how I feel about this topic.
Yeah.
And initially, though, my readers were like, they embraced it. Like, the initial response was like, oh my God, like, we love this is amazing. But when it got out of those circles and when it went into other circles, that's when the trouble sort of came. And I feel like the experience brought this anxiety of people having so much access. Because I remember thousands and thousands and thousands of comments coming in by the hour, and figuring out at a young age how to manage that. And I think that really took that naivety away. And now I'm a lot more careful. And I wouldn't call it self-censorship, but I think that the more that you grow and the more that you realize that this is how many people have access to this, the more that you think, am I ready to share this or not?
Yeah. Your caption, your response to that, the patriarchy is leaking, was so brilliant. And
thank you.
I don't think it occurs to women how much they're being censored and how much being a woman is censored.
Exactly.
I had the worst dinner with a friend the night before last, and the words came out of her mouth, you don't realize how much the world hates women until you are breastfeeding. And I'm like, that is just, no one should ever say that. Those are words that should never come out of a woman's mouth.
I agree.
And it made me so sad. But until it's out there, or you engage in some way, and as you say, you stumble on, I posted this picture and actually I realized it was a huge deal.
Yeah.
It actually wasn't okay.
Exactly. Even the patriarchy is leaking. Like, I feel like I didn't even write those words because it was in the heat of the moment when those photos were taken down, and me realizing, like, I realized in that moment how much censorship there is of women, because I had so many groups of women popping up around me that were like, no, you don't understand how wrong this is, because you have all of these other accounts that are able to post like pornography and all these images and all this media that actually objectifies us. And so you need to really do something about it. And I remember in the heat and the passion of that moment, I was like, the patriarchy is leaking, yes.
So good. It's so good. It's so good. You self-published.
I did.
Your work was originally rejected, which is crazy, as so many great writers' work is at the very beginning. Tell me, what does that mean for a writer to be self-published? What is that?
I think traditionally it's not a very good thing. It's kind of saying that, hey, and that's what my professors were like. The first thing I did was go to my professors and say, hey, you know, I write poetry and I think I want to publish a book because my readers are asking for it. What should I do? And I didn't know anyone. I was a student. I was in so much debt. And so I wasn't going to spend an exorbitant amount of money getting it sent anywhere. And my professor said, you know, try magazines, try literary journals and anthologies, and everybody faces a lot of rejection before they get there, so it's fine, let's keep going. And so I took her advice, I took this book, and I started to strip it, and I grouped together pieces of like 5 poems, 3 poems, 7 poems, and I started to send them out. And it just wasn't working. And I kind of understood why, because these anthologies and these journals were about like Canada and the literary landscape, and like Canada's where I'm from, and so it was a very specific sort of like themed pieces. And how is poems about like body hair and sexual abuse really going to fit into all of that? And I self-published the day that I realized that my poetry is, for me, Milk and Honey is one large poem. It's one continuous poem from the front to the back. And I was cheating, wow. You know, like it's like a body of work, but what I was doing was like taking eyelashes and fingertips and limbs and just throwing them and trying to make it work. When really I had to take the responsibility of putting the whole thing together and then being like, here it is. And so everyone's like, this is a bad idea. The moment you self-publish, you know, you're just locking the doors and no one is going to take you seriously. And I thought that that's fine, because no one is taking me seriously anyway. I don't even know these people that aren't even gonna like me. So yeah. Who cares? And so then I did that, and although at the moment everybody told me it was the worst decision I could have made, it's turned out to be the best. And I think timing is one thing. I did it at a time when the internet was really changing the face of publishing, and so it was just the perfect circumstances coming together. Yeah.
That's amazing. It's such a great story. It's so inspiring. And now you have 2.8 million followers or something crazy.
Yeah.
Which is, you must wake up in the morning and go, wow. You know,
yeah. I don't believe it's real. I'm 100%, I'm like, there is somebody out there buying these followers for me. And it's also
while I'm asleep.
You know, and it's hard to grasp it's just pixels on the screen. So it comes to life only when it's real life. And like 2 people are sitting together, we're hugging and we're actually having a conversation. That's when I'm like, it takes my breath away. Real. Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
How this work has been received in India, in your home country, versus how it's been received. Because, you know, what is mad to me is that your work is considered radical for Western culture. So what blows me away is...
It's crazy that it's radical.
Yeah.
I don't feel like it's even remotely radical. Yeah. Every day I wake up, I'm like, I need to get some edge. Like, let's do this.
But, you know, I mean, it's crazy, but it is. Well, I guess you've already answered the question in a way. Did you realize what you were doing was going to be so disruptive, radical, transgressive? Did you talk to your parents before you started writing poems like these and putting them out? Were there conversations? None. Wow.
It was, well, the only really conversations I ever had. So I started performing, like doing spoken word.
All right, so guys, I don't think that between these 2 ladies, now obviously, so I don't think Emma Watson is ST. I'm sorry, I don't think she's NF. I think she is ST. I think this woman is NF. She sounds a little bit more NI to me. And she sounds a little bit more FETI. I would guess that our poet laureate is perhaps some kind of NITI. Both of these women sound like perhaps double deciders. This woman, her name's Rupi. What's her full name here? Kaur. Very interesting. What a great person. This is very cool to me. All right, so I'm going to move on. I'm going to type someone else. So I'm going to take a look at just another random video with a random person. And this ought to be first look inside Bridget Mendler's space company. Let's see. What does she have here?
We are doing a receive test on our array. In about 20 minutes, satellite is going to pass over overhead. We are going to attempt a contact. Okay, we're less than a minute out now.
It's a little bit behind us right now.
Yeah, it's moving quick.
So if you come from there and scan it up. All right, we're tracking. Yep.
That's a good one. Look at it go. Look at that. Oh my God.
Man's age-old dream of flight becomes a reality.
1, 0, all engine running. Hippity hopping along.
My parents really are passionate about doing something within your lifespan that is good for the world, that brings some benefit to the world. For both of them, it was climate. So that's kind of just instilled in the DNA of our family, is to do something big and impactful in your life. And so for me as a young person, the coolest thing that I could do was be on a TV show. And it was a really amazing adventure, and I think, you know, taught me so many things. And I got to meet so many people around the world, which was amazing. But at a certain point in time, I felt like my impact was kind of being funneled through the activities of other people. You know, as an actress, sometimes you just feel like the spokesperson for other causes and other activities. And I wanted to feel more of a direct connection to the impact that I could have. So I visited the MIT Media Lab. It was a real awakening and inspiration for me to be there. And I wound up coming across space. I became passionate about, how do you take domain that has largely been for science, that has largely been about exploration, and it's starting to flip into more of an industrialized sector and really starting to show so much potential for good for the world. And so I went to law school. In law school, I focused on space law. I worked at the FCC that regulates spacecraft, and started to observe the trend that more and more activities and more varied activities were taking place in space. These frontier missions where you're going to Mars, where you're going to other planets, where you're going out. But it flipped our viewpoint on space is actually about what it brings back to Earth. And that has been the underpinning driving force of Northwood ever since. So we help satellite companies send data to support global connectivity with space, which we believe is an important underpinning factor in being able to industrialize the space economy. The key demonstration point for what we're building is showing that we have a more efficient technology to communicate with satellites. That technology is phased array antennas. So this current project is something that we spun up in the past 4 months, getting everything wired up and running. Now we've just been doing some additional testing on the receive and transmit functionality. Things are moving.
Why do you like RF and space so much? We notice there's things like launch, an increase in satellite buses, but really we think connectivity is not where it needs to be for the next generation of space. RF is just always hard to nail down like why it's working and when it's working, and we're using the same type of EM waves that also incorporate like vision, and you can go all the way up to infrared, but you can use them down here for communications. Like, it's wild. It's all the same waves, you're just manipulating them in different ways.
I'm Shar, I'm a co-founder here and head of software. Really what I do is I like to say all the blue of the system. So we are a vertically integrated company, which means we build our own hardware and we operate it. So that means all of the software that controls the phased array, all the software that moves data around, hopefully eventually around the world, all the software that actually allows customers to book time on our antennas, that's all within my domain. But what really actually brought me to Northwood is everything that I've seen in the space industry to date. Satellites were launching at a scale that looked like this, and ground was sort of growing at a scale that looked like this, and I knew that something needed to change. From Bridget's regulatory background, she was seeing hundreds, if not thousands, of filings coming in every year. Griffin, having done so much hardware and comm space research, he knew that there was a better solution. And like my background being on the satellite side and ground side, I was like, yeah, I think we could definitely do something here together.
For space companies, you're running a business that is completely reliant upon connectivity. Space has been accelerating very quickly thanks to SpaceX developing launch capabilities, and that trend is really accelerating as you have further launch advancements. We have more productized satellite buses, which makes it possible to just buy a satellite online in the same way you'd buy a pair of shoes. But connectivity with space is still stuck in a different era. So a lot of satellite companies accept outages and blackouts in a way that would be completely unacceptable in another industrialized sector. What we're doing is trying to reset those expectations for the space industry to say, no, if you want to industrialize space, the baseline should be that satellites are by default always online. When people think about antennas for space, they think about big parabolic dishes. The point of that is to concentrate energy into a single point and then to have that directed out to space. For phased array antennas, you actually have a surface that's made up of a bunch of antennas that then combine that power. The entire surface is activated to both pick up signal and send that energy back to space.
Northwood believes space is going to skyrocket and go like that. And when you look at the systems today, they're impressive ground stations of the service companies, but built on parabolics, like when you want to scale the system, you have to install a whole new aperture. And if you have missions like Transporter and Bandwagon, and then eventually Starship, you're going to have hundreds, if not thousands, of satellites overhead at the same time, and you're just going to try to track how many of them. It's going to be pretty tough. The best way to service the entire space industry is build a network that's actually scalable. What we really get the benefit of on the array side is that we can point between two parts of the sky almost instantaneously. If you remember like the two-slit experiment from high school physics, where you have like light going through two slits and you see highs and lows, it's basically using that same concept, but controlling it in a far more fine way, and it basically allows you to scan a beam without actually moving your antenna.
World of phased arrays today is broken into either more consumer technology that is designed for consumer usage, so you have much cheaper, really intentionally lower capability systems, and then you have much more high capability, really exquisite government systems that are aimed to do everything for every single different use case, and those cost over $1 billion for 12 antennas. So the scale of the cost is kind of astronomical. So we build phased array technology that can service the largest number of spacecraft missions, which means that it's higher capability than those consumer devices, but it's not aiming for that super long tail of capabilities that you have in more of the government use cases. Phased arrays typically have a lot of different component parts for each of the individual units in the system, but our system does all of that work on the digital back end and splits out the signal there. So we are actually able to have a much cheaper system because of that. The exciting thing is, as we scale our processing capabilities, we can continue to scale beams in a nonlinear manner.
So we have this guy set up due north right now. It does not move, it stays in one place, and it's able to track satellites across the sky. Right now what we're doing is integrating with another satellite company's system, so we can actually send the data that we receive to them and take the data that they send to us and send it up to their satellite. I think the fun part about RF when it comes to space is the distances and the challenges combined. You know, it's not simple to get the signal up and down from space. So the added challenge there is really fun.
Yeah, so RF just stands for radio frequency. So anything to do with like wireless communications, your Wi-Fi, all that, your cell phone, etc. I find it challenging. A lot of people consider it to be black magic. So whenever you take it from black magic to reality and understand it, I think that is hard to live.
So we're coming up on a pass pretty soon, and it's going to be scanning across the sky. And really what we need to do, we were talking about how phased arrays work. All of my software basically pre-predicts where the satellite's going to be, generates the actual phase delays that need to happen to actually point to the satellite, and we basically start loading it and sending it. When the satellite comes into view, we'll basically start streaming all of that phase data to the antenna, and you'd actually start seeing RF information coming on this beckon right here.
But we had a wide beam width. Yep. So we'll see what happens.
It should be pretty loud. If it's pointed out, I mean, some
Wait, both all.
We are waiting for a satellite to come into view so we can receive the signal into our array. This is one of the first times that we've done this.
All right, Greg, you can press play.
Hello. Okay.
New pointing array coordinates.
Yep.
Sysref.
Confirm that it's 4.8 azimuth,
Yeah.
degree minus 0.2, elevation 38.95, maybe because it's windy.
Yes.
Okay, we're less than a minute out now. 10 seconds.
It's a little bit behind us right now. All right, so we're at positive, but we're not yet at our scannable range. In 10 degrees, we'll start tracking.
Okay.
So it's coming from there and scanning out.
30 degrees array elevation.
All right, we are tracking.
Oh yeah, look at that. Look at that hump. You guys, look. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. All right, we got it.
That's a good one. Look at it go.
How much SNR?
Look at that. Oh my God.
That's great.
Wow.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Bye-bye, satellite.
Go Frankie, man. That was
Man,
even lower than last night, and she still killed it. All right, well done, team. Yeah.
Very good.
Almost did cry the first time we saw this thing actually really start doing what it's supposed to do.
I definitely yelled as loud as I could.
I mean, you guys have all put in so much work, so much effort to get here. It's been a lot of long days.
Months of grind, and it actually worked.
Yes, and it actually worked.
Yeah, someone told me that they did this in 4 months. I wouldn't believe them.
And you've been building these for 11 years.
Yeah.
So yeah.
We should
Yeah.
have a victory beer.
You guys, we just can't stop.
It went from really small to really big, really fast.
Yeah, that was really strong.
Also, guys, you know something super, super sick?
What?
This satellite is no longer really being tracked. It's going to be considered like deorbited. Like this is like something you would do in a re-entry phase.
Should I shake this?
Like
Hey.
that level of tracking.
Early
Early LEOP.
So we did LEOP.
Yeah, we basically.
We've officially LEOP. I need somewhere to put this trash.
NORAD no longer tracks.
Oh, I think we do need the whiskey because we don't have enough beers. What's this? Is this IPA?
It's an IPA, yeah.
All right, I'm an IPA gal.
Josh!
Josh, you animal.
I wasn't opening it yet.
Cheers, sir.
Cheers.
Hey.
Cheers.
Northwood.
To Frankie.
To Frankie.
Free Northwood.
Yes.
What's going on today?
Just packing up and going home today.
Okay, so that was kind of an ST video. That's what it looks like when you've got people doing ST. The reason why I think that's ST is because I kind of type people the way a college counselor would type people. When I find your occupation, I know that occupational interest is not arbitrary. especially once I know that you chose that occupation after a bit of education. So if you went to college for something and then you chose an occupation after doing a great deal of college coursework, that tells me that whatever you did, especially if it's difficult in some way, is somewhat indicative of who you are, because you wouldn't have loved it enough, and I experienced this with computer science, to complete it willingly, given your understanding of it as a future prospect, if it wasn't already a part of you. I'll say that again. People don't choose a career unless it's right for them. So, because it's too grueling, and eventually they start to figure out everybody can do everything. NF types can do ST like this. It's just that they get far enough into it and then they start to realize, oh, I'm in the wrong place. This is not my place. So if you have found your place and you're a little bit older, sometimes that makes it easier for me to eliminate a whole bunch of types that would otherwise be causing me a bunch of ambiguity in recognizing what type or typological pattern you are living out. So when I see a woman like this, and she did some singing, she did some show business, but you instantly look at her in show business and she doesn't look balanced, she doesn't look happy, she looks a little bit like a deer caught in the headlights when she was singing. Her clothes were a little bit ridiculous. So she's this woman named Bridget Miller. She does a show called Good Luck Charlie. It's all very Disney and family friendly, right? And then you go see her all these years later and she looks better. Her face is a little shorter. Again, form is not arbitrary. She looks happy, centered, brave. She looks a little bit calmer. She looks like her identity belongs to her. Her life belongs to her. That's what jumped out at me. At least more so than when she was in show business. So that makes me think that this woman is perhaps Savior ST. Now again, I got a lot of double deciding. So all that gives me is this. Now, I didn't see a whole lot of OI, so I don't think this is Taylor Swift, who, by the way, I think is SITE, not FINE. So I'd be inclined to see this for her. And again, I didn't see a lot of this difference. I would sway slightly towards her having FE, just by the way she looks, the way she smiles, and the way she talks. Rather than her having TE, because I kind of am familiar with the difference between TE and FE. So let's go look at something else. Let's hear from somebody else. You know what, guys, if I'm going to do any more video, I think I'll do it on a different day. So that's going to sum up this video. And I appreciate you guys for watching and hanging in there and enjoying anything I'm putting out. I think it's really cool. So thanks, guys, so much. Appreciate your time. Have a nice day. Bye.